The battle continues as the Canterbury Bulldogs take on the fire-breathing St George Dragons.
Michael O'Connor scores for the Saints. After Graham Wynn. Graham Wynn has taken the corner post. No try. Gets a pass. Oh, beautifully. Goes from dummy half. I'd say that's a try. O'Connor kicks ahead. He'll get there first, I think. Yes, that's a try. Oh, bad bounce for the Saints. Lamb has it for Canterbury. He's in. It's a try. Scored by Terry Lamb.
And so they were the highlights from the cricket ground in round one, won by St George. These are the team lineups for today in a different ballpark. Belmore Sports Ground. Michael Potter and Brian Johnson, full-backs. Max Mannix comes into the Canterbury three-quarter line, replacing Chris Anderson, and he partners Greg Mullane, Chris Mortimer and Ross Conlon. Gearin, Johnston, Beattie and Morris have been doing a good job for St George. Terry Lamb, passing a fitness test, will take his place at 5/8 alongside Steve Mortimer. And it's Paul Morris and Perry Haddock for St George. Langmack, Folks, Batiste, Robinson, Johnston and Tunks means we have the same set of 6 for Canterbury today as we saw last Sunday. O'Grady, Walsh, Fraser, Jarvis, Guider and Stone are the selected 6 to take them on. Warren Ryan coaches Canterbury. Roy Masters is in charge of St George. Barry Barnes, the referee. Ross Conlon taking the kick-off. And it's gone on down into the in goal where Brian Johnston brings it away for St George. About 10 or 11 metres into the field of play. Dummy half is Guider. The forward runner was Jarvis. And a very enthusiastic welcoming committee was waiting for him. St George a penalty against the marker, Billy Johnston. Just inside the 22. This is where it happened, and the NEC replay will show it for you. Johnston was behind the play the ball and interfered with the progress of the St George attack. That's a good line finder. The tap taken just inside the 22 and taking it up, Captain Robert Stone. Short ball for Jarvis. He's had it taken from him by, let's identify, Brian Batiste to the blind for Greg Mullane. And a penalty to Canterbury. The St George three-quarters inside the 5. Minor grade results. Thirds, a big win for St George, 31-10. Reserves also to the Saints, 18-10. Overcast and cold at Belmore, but it doesn't appear to have kept too many people away. That hill on the far side is quite congested now.
Well, that's using a player to his advantage. Ross Conlon there took the place kick for the sideline. That's a ploy I can remember Jack Gibson using with South Sydney on occasions when he had them. And, of course, Ross is a tremendous goal kicker of the ball. And into this strong breeze, Warren Ryan's decided that's the best way to make yardage.
Lamb coming across and finding the second runner. And Paul Langmack is put to ground about 8 metres into St George's area. Batiste and another penalty. Beattie has been recalled for the incident with Batiste. And the penalty has been given to the Bulldogs, and Conlon will take the shot at goal. Canterbury running into the breeze in the first half.
It's a particularly strong breeze, and only a long kicker of the ball would dare take a shot from this distance.
.65 the success rate for Ross Conlon. Second match in 2 days. Strikes it sweetly, coming around, curling beautifully. That's a good goal. That is a superb goal from Ross Conlon. Canterbury-Bankstown 2, St George 0. Well, out of all of that, I guess St George will be strongly reminded that you do not give penalties within kicking distance to Ross Conlon. O'Grady down and taken by young Michael Potter, who had that blinder of a game last Sunday. Johnston dummy half. That's Max Mannix, the number 2. He came through with the Fairfield Patrician side, in which Paul Langmack was a member. Also a youngster who went to Manly. I'm trying to think of his name. A lock forward, I think his name was Reedy.
Barry Reedy.
Barry Reedy. Robinson. Steve Mortimer. His brother Chris. Kick has sent Brian Johnson across to the center of the field, just outside the 32. And Greg Mullane hems him and he forces him back. Slippery Steve. Long ball out to Michael Beattie. Held by Lamb and by Steve Folkes. Pat Jarvis. Stone. Cut down by Peter Tunks. Penalty. Canterbury's 3/4 inside the 5. Well, Barry Barnes has made it very obvious in the opening exchanges that he is going to force a very strict 5, and he's going to watch those outside backs in particular.
And if he continues to do it, no one will complain. These two teams have got very strong forward defence. I'd say they're both going to try and play the game out wide. That should make for an open and exciting encounter.
Michael Beattie taking the line kick, and that's a good one too. 30 metres out from the Canterbury line. We come up with the tap restart now. Robert Stone. Oh, that's going to bring a penalty. Well, that was a set play that just absolutely fell apart. And nothing can be more embarrassing. That man, Chris Guider, was, he thought, running as a decoy with no intention of catching a pass that may have gone astray or mistakenly gone to him. And of course it bounced off him back to Robert Stone, who was offside. Terry Lamb. Brian Baptiste. Lamb on the inside. Mortimer went across the paddock. He was chased by Walsh. He'd long got rid of the ball when Walsh continued with the tackle and really flattened Mortimer.
No doubt Roy Masters has made it very clear to his players that Steve Mortimer is one of the dangerous Bulldogs that's just got to be taken out of play at all costs.
Batiste, now the crowd roars. They've seen something quite obviously down there that might not have been quite as obvious to us people watching it from high up, but the people down on the fence, they stood as one and started pointing to the referee and touch judge, appealing for something to be done. Morris is the man penalised. Canterbury's Conlon. I think he's opting out of it. That's strange. He's only just kicked one from further out than this. Sure, it wasn't quite as wide, the angle, but they're going to put the pressure on. Mortimer, Lamb, and down goes Terry, playing his 100th first-grade game today. 88 with Western Suburbs, and captains the Bulldogs today for the first time. Chris Mortimer, just outside the 22, struggling to get to his feet. Steve Folkes. Small but tough. Peter Tunks. Ball's in the hands of Pat Jarvis. This is the supreme test for St George today. We haven't seen them for a while. But gee, the raps have been big about them. Whoa, what a shoulder hit.
Ray, this has got all the makings of a championship bout, this one. It really does look like being a tremendous game. The defence is absolutely fierce. No quarter being given or asked.
I think the instruction was take no prisoners. The way they're playing the first 10, Potter. Whoosh! Up and over the halfway, but losing his foot.
Thank you very much. I'll sit down.
Yeah. The crowd goes back to the bleachers. Conlon gets a one-hander down to Lamb. Mortimer screaming, directing the traffic. He wants it, Mortimer. That's him. Now it's Paul Langback. Just outside the 22. Lost in the play the ball. Scrum. Centre ground just outside St. George's quarter. Fed by Haddock, won by the Dragons. Clean heel, nice tunnel. This was Morris. O'Grady. Jarvis. No marker. Now there is. Haddock and the run round. It's out to Beattie. This defence out wide. You can see why they were trying to crib a couple of metres early in the match. They respect what's going on out there, and the man opposite them is a darn good footballer. He has to be stopped early. Potter's got it covered up. He's outside the 22. And away from the hooker, Guida. But Beattie comes from behind, and the number 4 jumper to combine with the number 10 for St. George, Colin Fraser. This is Mannix. Now Mortimer. Lamb. Mullane. Batiste. (2-0) the Bulldogs. Penalty goal for Conley. Chris Mortimer clears. Between Johnson and Morris. Johnson will bring it back. Outside the quarter. Steve Morris, dummy half. Run around with Haddock. Jarvis. Probing for the gap that sometimes presents itself behind the play the ball. Flat run for Walsh. Gee, took a heavy hit. Haddock shoots for touch. Potter's going fast, but the kick's found it. 30 metres up. Not bad, in fact. 25. Off that man's boot. Fed by Mortimer. Won by Canterbury. This is Lamb. Cut-out pass on Potter. To Mullane to Mortimer. Chris Mortimer's gone outside 35, 45. To the halfway. Chased and caught by Brian Johnstone. Canterbury now. They've got St. George at 6s and 7s. Conlon. Cut down by the lock forward, Graham O'Grady. 5 metres into St. George's territory. Batiste. Long ball. Bad pass. Folks did well. Swallowed by the St. George defence. Near the halfway. He's hurt. Clutching at his right shin bone. His folks. A lot of agony written on that face of his.
And there are 2 good players. Jim Lees played a full game in the reserves, and he's an international.
Robinson. Mortimer. Potter. Gearan underneath it. Gearan replies with a kick that might find touch. No, Potter's got it covered. Just getting a hand of the corner of the jumper was Stone. And Potter plays it just outside the 22. Well, that was a move for Canterbury, or a play that backfired. Now they've spun the ball quickly to Ross Conlon.
As suggested earlier, that shows us that Canterbury are looking to spread the ball against St. George, and I think the vice versa will apply when St. George get hold of the ball.
Tunks. Peter Tunks flicking it out the back door, but that's probably not necessary, particularly on your own 22, trying to squeeze the ball out that really isn't necessary on that part of the ground at this stage of the game. 16 minutes gone first half. Canterbury leading 2-0. Pat Jarvis goes ahead. Stone. Graham O'Grady with a left arm injury. Brian Johnston taken by Greg Millay. It's with Haddock. And the bomb test is there for young Potter. He's just received some attention from a trainer, and it's a line dropout. Wasn't a bad time to test young Potter. He got a pretty heavy hit from Robert Stone, and I think St George were aware of that, and they decided that now is the time to pepper him with a bomb. Now, how's O'Grady looking? He's right over on the touchline, near the halfway. His left arm is just not quite with him at the moment. It's not part of his equipment. This fellow is Colin Fraser. Dummy half Jarvis. We're near the 22 line. Canterbury's end of the field as Steve Morris comes across and backwards and finds Paul Morris. Morris's and Johnston's. They make it pretty difficult when you add them to Mortimer's. Across now for Stone, and a flat run and a hard run by Walsh, but it was snuffed out by some good defence that was equal to the task. And here's a penalty to St George right in front. Well, he's going across to make it just a little bit of an angle for Steve Guerin, but when you talk of Guerin and Conlon, you're talking of two of, if not the two best goal kickers in the Sydney Rugby League.
Could well determine the result today.
You'd love to have either one of them in your team. Well, here's his success rate, Guerin's. He's up at 77%, 15% higher than Ross Conlon. Guerin, of course, he went to St George, and this man came to Canterbury. Guerin keeps it low, but the flags are high. Canterbury-Bankstown and St George. 2 points all. This is the NEC big game. Guerin. Jarvis. Fraser. Haddock. That'll find it. Good kick. 25 metres out from the Canterbury line. Trainers are going in to where the man kicked at Haddock. Billy Johnston apparently went for a charge down on Perry Haddock. Both trainers went on. Touch judge now making a report on the late tackle from Billy Johnston. This was Haddock. We're going back into the match, just about 60 seconds, and there's the hit. A shoulder charge by Johnston, and he hurt his shoulder. Look at the pain on his face. Needless to say, Perry Haddock isn't feeling any brighter for the collision, but St George get the penalty. That's where the ball landed. That's where his feet, well, that's where he hopes his feet will be when he actually comes in and makes the final address with the ball. Left foot plumb alongside the ball. Head down. Very much like a golf shot. Hits it beautifully. He's got it. Steve Guerin has taken the Dragons to the lead. Well, I said it earlier when Ross Conlon kicked his first penalty. But you can't afford to give a fellow like Conlon a shot inside what we would call easy kicking distance, and in his case it's probably 45 metres out, and Gearon is much the same. So I think the coaches will be re-emphasising that to their players at half-time. Terry Lamb is limping on that ankle of his again. As St. George make a bust. But Chris Mortimer turns defence into attack and sends Paul Langmack back to the 32-metre line. Lamb's gone to ground now.
It's the same ankle, I think, that he hurt last week.
To the blind side goes Brian Batties. He's 25 metres out. Johnston goes up the blind, but it's St. George inside the 5. The outside backs have done it again, and they've given Ross Conlon an absolute sitter. ...20 metres out, right in front. For this super kicker from Canterbury. Lamb back on his feet.
One of them anyhow.
Most of this outside broadcast crew that are doing the football tonight did the Wang Australian Marathon this morning. They'll feel like they've run a marathon themselves by tonight. But they're hanging in there, bringing in the pictures on 10 Sports as Ross Conlon levels it up again. 4-4 now. Restart for O'Grady. Potter. That's Langmack. Batiste. Mortimer. Tunks. Mortimer again. Lamb. The stretch is on. Mullane. Chris Mortimer. Ross Conlon now. Galloping towards halfway. Steve Morris is doing a good job. He knew what had to be done. It was a case of a big man and a small man. Steve reminded me of a bloke trying to jump into the saddle of a fast-moving horse. On the move. He got him, though. Bingo. Away now to Morris and on to Brian Johnston. They've got the overlap, but they couldn't pass. Haddock dummies inside for Morris, gives it outside for Johnson, then on to Beattie. Beattie looks back, finds his fullback. Brian Johnson. Hit by Mannix. And by Langmack. Gearon. Whoops-a-daisy. Jarvis. Canterbury, they're being really stretched here today. Morris pings off a kick towards the sideline. He's got it. Batiste. Mortimer switching it back blindside. Lamb puts the kick in. Johnson's got it covered. Mannix the tackler. Haddock. Morris. Paul. Jarvis. Stone. On the St. George quarter. 8 minutes from the break. Mannix. Gearon the tackler. Penalty. Conlon coming across. Got to be taken on the halfway. Robinson. Batiste. Tunks. Pass behind Folks. Max missed it. Mannix has got it.
Beautiful ball, hand off to Folks. Lamb's going after it with Morris. A great race. Morris has got there first.
Great save by Morris. Speed isn't everything in football, but sometimes it helps, and that was a desperate situation that Morris had to come across and tidy up.
Only man to have around, Steve Morris. Folks put it through beautifully for Lamb to chase. Drop kick as a beauty. Taken by Conlon. By Potter, I should say. Billy Johnston. Batiste. Still no tries. 4-4. Robbins. Forwards, they have the pattern of simply hitting it up with nothing flash straight off the dummy half, and they run very close to the dummy half.
Well, that's the 6th penalty for either team being inside the 5 metres, so obviously referee Barry Barnes is convinced that he's going to keep it going, and the players are going to have to learn their lesson.
Conlon will be taking the shot from about 18 metres in from touch on the 22 line. Two from two for Ross. With 9 out of 10 kickers, you'd probably think there's some risk about this, but Conlon and Guerin, 2 opposing goal kickers in this match today. It's almost second nature, something like this. Bingo! He's got it. 6-4. Bulldogs are in front. Gaida. Well, this will see it go to half-time, this set of 6 for St George. 6-4 to Canterbury. The breeze will be with them in the second half. So they can go to this break feeling very confident. And there's a brawl breaking out in the back play, an individual exchange. As the play goes on, Graham O'Grady kicks ahead and finds touch 15 metres out. The touch judge will come on and report this incident that happened behind the play. So let's go back to a head-on camera and see what was going on here. There are the boys, not really worried about the game of football that was allowed to go on. The siren has sounded. Reprimands have been handed out. The first half is over, and I think 26 footballers are pretty glad that it is. Played at a frantic pace. Canterbury leading by 6-4. And we'll be back in just a minute.
No changes to either side. Canterbury leading by 6 points to 4 in what to date has been a most exciting rugby league contest.
Welcome back to it, the NEC big game.
Langmack brings it beyond the 22 line. Folks. Mortimer Tunks. He has been, in my opinion, a touch better than maybe some of his colleagues today, Tunks. Some of the things he's done has been absolutely superb. I'm not saying his work rate has been any higher than Brian Batiste and company, but Tunks has been able to do a couple of things that late in the first half, we saw Canterbury starting to find some gaps in that St George defensive core.
There are no noticeable weaknesses on either side, and the winner really is going to be the team that can keep going for the next 40 minutes and do what they do better than their opposition. But there's no noticeable or outstanding weakness from either of the two sets of sides.
Which I guess, Bill, and I was going to pose that question to you in the early seconds of this second half. It must be difficult for a first-grade coach when you know that you're looking at 13 faces, probably looking for guidance or for help, and when you're dealing with St George's and Canterbury's, pretty hard to advise them, I suppose, on what you can do better than you've already done in that first half.
I think all you can do is just hang in there until the opportunity comes and the bounce of the ball goes your way, and you make the most of those breaks that happen to come when they come.
Paul Langmack playing at about 35 metres out, and Canterbury comes back to the blind, and Folks gives a cut-out ball to Potter. Neatly tackled by Perry Haddock. Folks just outside the 22. Mortimer, Batiste. Almost through Batiste, but Fraser clinging on. Back to the blind now.
I still expect the breaks to be made, not up the middle of the rucks, but out wide in the back lines and by use of a kicking game.
Now this is tackle number 5, and Peter Tunks to play it. Mortimer is stationed to the right. Here he is, and there goes the bomb. And Langmack appears to have run into a shoulder. I'm not prepared at this stage to suggest it was a late tackle. I'm looking for the touch judges there. They're not moving in, so apparently the referee saw it and was quite happy with it. Ryan Johnson tested, but safe. Drop out from Beattie. Greg Mullane taking it back to the 22 line. Lamb. Folks. Mortimer. Batiste. Forwards now for Canterbury appear to be coming off a pivot. Lamb into the scoreboard corner. A chase. And Brian Johnson has to take it in touch, in goal, for the line drop out.
See that goal, Max?
It would seem that St George has had more anxious moments than have Canterbury. Mike Beattie, same as before. This man, Potter, taking it back to O'Grady and Guida. Penalty to Canterbury against Chris Guida. And Conlon will take a kick at goal from 34 metres out, directly in front. See the little left foot of Chris Guida. Conlon, height, sweep. 2 further points to Ross Conlon and to Canterbury-Bankstown. They lead out by 8 points to 4. It was quite prepared to go on with it. Whoever it was picking him's a pretty brave customer. Something Billy does very well, actually, fight. Blindside rush for Paul Morris. Held by Mortimer. Cole Fraser taking it ahead strongly. Perfect example of a young man given a chance in the top grade. Good quick passing by the Saints. Oh, that was a desperate tackle by Stevie Mortimer. It was a desperate tackle by Mortimer, but he pulled it off beautifully and crunched Johnson across the sideline.
Last week we saw St George score some good tries against Penrith down the blind side, and they tried the same tactics on that occasion.
Oh, Potter running over Mortimer pass. He got support. He's found Mannix. Mannix is flying. He's racing over inside the 22 line. And it's a try. Oh, he's dropped it. Oh, how embarrassing. Well, I can't believe it. He must be almost crying, the youngster. In fact, Steve Gearin has helped him to his feet. Well, how in the name of heavens could he do that? Steve Morris jumped.
He's a dejected figure.
And we all feel sorry for him in his first full game in first grade. It's just one of those things that's happened. He's done enough to my mind today to show us that he's got what it takes to be a first grade player. He's done some great things. That was an unfortunate incident for him.
Well,
The crowd went up. Everybody had put in fact, the bloke with the scoreboard numerals had put the 12 up where the 8 currently is. Walsh, 32 metres out.
I just wonder if, Ray, if that's going to be the incident that's going to change the whole complexion of the game. Canterbury-Bankstown was showing us they were starting to get on top. They look like they've lost a little enthusiasm now, and St George are roaring.
but what a magnificent break by Potter. Brian Johnston hit by Chris Mortimer. He's fast becoming one of Sydney's crowd pleasers, this Canterbury fullback. He can do unbelievable things. Haddock. Oh, gee. He was taken by Mortimer. It's been fielded by the fullback, Potter. Greg Mullane. I was a little bit concerned the way Steve Mortimer took Perry Haddock there. There's a sense of a high tackle involved. Matisse. Gee, he's a workhorse, this fella. Carved out of granite almost. He's that tough. He just keeps coming up and copping it. Robinson. Him and Jarvis having a little bit of a conversation down there. Robinson points at Jarvis and said, there you go, do it again, and my friend Mr. Barnes will get you again. What were they talking about, those two chaps? The weather? It just went on and on and on. Robbo and Pat Jarvis. It was almost as if Jarvis was quite comfortable. Anyway, Barnes has penalised him, and Canterbury come back with this penalty. Mortimer, Tunks. I think he's put it down. Where is it? Saints have got it. Haddock, O'Grady. Some of these little St George players, when I say little, I'm talking about the Guiders, Morrises, the Haddocks, and even fellows like Graham O'Grady and Paul Morris. They well could come into their own here shortly on. Morris with it now in the 5 jumper. Haddock's in the 7. He lost that ball. Morris said he pinched it off me, sir. Scrum down. 8 metres into...
Morris was right.
8 metres goes into Canterbury territory. We're back live with Canterbury in possession. Here's Greg Mullane. To the halfway. What an unbelievable game of rugby league this has been. So tight, and Canterbury have put it down again. Well, he's ruled there that St George actually stole the ball from the Canterbury player, and he's given 6 more. It's out with Mortimer. Mortimer tackled by Brian Johnson, not with the ball. It was after he had kicked. Coming back with it is Beattie, and the referee has ruled that it was a legitimate tackle. The crowd booing Barnes as the Saints go back, and Fraser is bombarded. 8 points to 4 in favour of Canterbury. Long cut-out ball to Brian Johnson. Now with Gearan. Oh, good ball from Gearan to Johnson. Beautifully tackled by Folks. Oh, this is a great game of league. It's got every one of the skills. To St George. Beattie taking the touch finder. Gee, I'm just looking at that scoreboard over there. There's a shock score. Another leading Parramatta midway through the second half. Jarvis. Bootlace tackle by Tunks.
Game's been seesawing from one side of the field to the other, and Brian Johnson from the fullback from St George is looking to run down the blind side, and he's the sort of player that could turn this match for them.
Mortimer. Folks. Walsh was the tackler. Robinson. Johnston. Folks. Steve Mortimer. He's through. Beautifully cut down. Firstly by Perry Haddock. Secondly by Colin Fraser. Tunks now. Tackle by Jarvis. Penalty to Canterbury. That's against Jarvis for hanging on. There's no question about this penalty. He actually used Tunks to help himself to his feet, and in doing so he didn't help Tunks play the ball. He's still hanging on to him. And now up comes the magical boot of Mr. Ross Conlon, who will try to extend the Canterbury lead. Well, this is the game they're playing. The team that will make the most mistakes in their own half and give penalties to these sharpshooters is going to lose out. Conlon is 20 metres in from touch. He's 35 metres out. Anybody want to say that he can't kick it? In flight, it's looking wide. It is. Conlon has missed the kick and goal. 8-4 the scoreline. Drop kick by Beattie, taken by Chris Mortimer. On the St George 22 line. Langmack. This is where Canterbury will probably set themselves up for a shot. Oh, Robinson! Within 3 metres of the line. Mortimer. His brother Chris, the line is there. He's arched over the top of it, but forced back. Tunks, he loves this sort of stuff. Tackle number 5. Paul Langmack is the dummy half. Mortimer, up goes the bomb. It's too deep.
but was put over the dead ball line by Perry Haddock. 8 points to 4. Chris Johns has been sent into the match in jumper number 15 by Roy Masters. Michael Beattie is off. And the drop kick this time taken by Paul Morris. And Stephen Folkes brings it back to the 22. Robinson. He's had a powerful game. Tunks. Hand off down to Batiste. Then to Potter. Potter 10 metres out. Mortimer to the blind to Tunks. Gets it away to Potter. Sweeps it out to Lamb. Shoots it onto Mullane. And he's cut down out there. 15 metres out from the line. No mark of defence. And Mullane is taken by Johns. 5 gone for the Bulldogs. Played back to Billy Johnston. Steve Mortimer puts up the bomb. Knocked over by Chris Walsh. And that was over the dead ball line, I think, when the St George player touched it. And he's bringing it out to the 22 line for the restart. Guida. And this is where I would think Steve Morris should get involved. Jarvis. Morris has folded in behind the ruck now. Haddock. Penalty to St George. Morris is scampering up to take the tap. There goes Morris. 15-metre run. Fafita. Crash. And Terry Lamb. Base over apex. And Crane limping out of it.
Well, Canterbury have just got their nose in front 8 to 4, and I've got a feeling this is going to be the longest 10 minutes they've ever played.
Chris Walsh plays it out to Haddock. Swept to Paul Morris. And the defence there from Greg Mullane is solid. He's just inside the 32-metre line. Stone inside for Fafita. Still Steve Morris is lurking behind the ruck. The bomb goes up from Captain Robert Stone. Taken beautifully by Paul Langmack. Batiste. Terry Lamb. Hobbling along on one leg at the moment is Terry Lamb. But I remember last week we said he couldn't possibly go on much longer, and next thing he bobbed up scoring a try. Brian Johnson back to the halfway line. Greg Mullane's been solid for Canterbury in both areas. This is Chris Johns. Guida getting out of dummy half and gaining 10. Long ball out to Fafita. Dummy half Cole Fraser. Tension. Almost grand final tension here at Belmore Sports Ground. It's got to me, I've forgotten where I am. It's gone across blindside now. And beautiful passing by the Dragons. Johnson inside the quarter line. He's lost it. Changeover it is. Mortimer. Mannix. 34 metres out. Robinson.
said earlier that I thought Peter Tunks had his nose in front of his forward colleagues, but Big Robbo has overhauled him, I believe.
And Brian Batista's had a great game for Canterbury also.
Sure has. Chris Mortimer's kick going down inside the 22. Brian Johnson, long ball to Gearan. Haddock falls into the line. Haddock will scamper out of dummy half, probably. Morris is with it now. Jarvis. 8 minutes of time remaining. Canterbury, 4 goals. There goes Morris again. From the dummy half area. Stone. One-hander back to Guida. Guida lofting it. Fafita can't handle. Conlon has got the ball for Canterbury. Chris Mortimer takes it out. Billy Johnston. Johnston again. Robinson. Powering his way 10 metres out from the St George line, but losing it. Paul Morris, driven by Batiste. Jarvis, Fraser. Langmack around the legs. Haddock. Johns. Guida. Fafita. He's lost it.
A couple of signs there of inexperience. Young John Fafita came out of reserve grade today. He's moved on as a replacement into this match, and a couple of handling errors being forced by good Canterbury defence.
Penalty to Canterbury against Mortimer for his feed.
Well, this is it. We're into the last 5 minutes. The last throw of the dice for the Dragons.
Paul Morris finding the line just on his side of the halfway. Jarvis. Nobody has tried harder than he has. He's mixed it with the Canterbury forwards blow for blow. Brian Johnston. They're 10 metres into Canterbury's area. We're inside the last 5. Long ball from Haddock out to Jarvis. Too long that pass for Fafita. Couldn't get a hand to it. He has now, of course. Guida. Haddock. Walsh. Haddock again. Can't get through them. Let's go over them. And it came off the hand of Brian Johnson. Back to a Canterbury player. Peter Tunks it is. Mortimer. Folks. Canterbury's penalty. St George willing to try anything to get that ball. Conlon finding it just on his own side of the halfway, and the curtains are closing for St George on this battle anyway. They'll probably take out of this match the consolation that no tries were scored against them, and also will have in the backs of their mind the fact that they have played Canterbury at the Sydney Cricket Ground, where all of this Winfield Cup is finally going to be decided. referee Barnes calling timeout. A bruising encounter. Now in its dying seconds, and Canterbury have come up with it for 6 more, and the crowd roars. It's hard to say a partisan Canterbury crowd, because this is almost played on the fringe of both areas. There's plenty of red and white support here today. Canterbury playing slow motion football. Potter 15 metres from the line. Lamb shot for drop goal, but it's gone over the dead ball line and will come out for the place kick restart. But whether St George have time to take that football from their own 22 down and put it over the goal line in time is something I doubt. Jarvis, taken ball and all. The tackler was Chris Mortimer. Forward. Almost 35 metres out from the line. Blind side for Jarvis. A hand off to Stone. But they're not really the players that are going to pull this out of the fire. This really needs somebody with lightning feet. Stevie Morris, for instance. Or Brian Johnson. Somebody like that's got to do something freakish. The kick by Johnson. Morris is the chaser. Mortimer's under it. Hit by Morris. And the referee has ruled play on. Knocked backwards. Morris appeals to the penalty. Paul Langmack plays it on the halfway. Mortimer tackle. Time, fast running up. And again the referee calls timeout. Well, this is the longest last 5 minutes I can recall.
There has been a reasonable amount of time off for injuries, but
folks, getting very dark here. Robinson obviously wouldn't seem that way probably on the screens, but in reality it's getting very, very dark. Johnston. Siren. What a great battle. What a tremendous game of football. No tries. 8 points to 4 in favour of Canterbury. Ross Conlon 4 goals. Steve Gearan 2 goals. And so the Bulldogs and the Dragons head for the dressing rooms and for the Sydney Cricket Ground, where they will next do battle in the semi-final final series. We'll be in the dressing rooms with the Man of the Match award in just a moment.
Sales and Reynolds Man of the Match in a great game of football here at Belmore Oval with the Canterbury-Bankstown fullback, Mick Potter. Congratulations on your great form so early in the year.
Thanks, Bill. You know the players around you to help you out, and that's what I got.
At what stage did you think that you had the game won?
When the hooter went, mate.
Well, for taking today's award, it's my pleasure to present you with a cheque for $500, courtesy of NEC and Electronic Sales and Rentals.
Thank you. Thanks for the sponsor too. Yeah, not too many better than Mickey Potter, and I just hope we don't. Well, I don't say if we lose him. People probably say the bloke probably think he's a bit young, but that's ridiculous, because if you're good enough, you're not, you're old enough if you're good enough. And Mick Potter looks like a rep player to me.
It was a game where there were no tries scored, but on one occasion it was so near and yet so far. What happened?
Oh, I was 5 yards out from the line. I thought I was there, and I couldn't believe it. I lost the ball. I don't know what happened.
Michael Potter taking up the Man of the Match award, a bright young star in rugby league with one hell of a future. The weekend